Hello, hello, and welcome. My name is Kyra, and we are coming to you from my couch because listen, I have a plan. So I'm knitting, right, for my next little project, and knitting takes a whole lot longer than crochet. We all know this. And so I was thinking, what could I do to have something that I want to post this week? I love knit. I love crafting and all that stuff. But you know what else I love? To read. So We're gonna discuss books. If you guys like this, let me know. Trying something new because I love reading. But so yeah, that's our plan. That's our plan. So in terms of our book for this week, we're gonna talk about Uglies by Scott Westerfeld because I see all these girls on TikTok and stuff talking about the Hunger Games and Divergent and stuff like that. This was my sci-fi dystopian post whatever obsession as a kid. I remember I got this book, my cousin had given it to me on the train because I was going from Florida to New York, on a train. She was like, "Here, read this book while you're on the train." And I said, "Okay." Obsessed, instantly obsessed. This was all over Tumblr. I never saw anybody actually talking about the book. They were just posting the cover because mine's a little busted, so don't look at that. But so we're gonna discuss this. We're gonna discuss this book as I knit, and we're gonna talk about it because it's kind of unhinged. This is gonna be an unhinged recap of this book, and this book itself is a little what, what? Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so what we're working on panel for the cardigan. So this book starts out with an iconic first line, truly iconic. The early summer sky was the color of cat vomit. And I feel like that just really encapsulates it as a whole. And I'll kind of speak on that later as after we go through the book. But I think about that first line all the time where they're like, you need a hook to draw in your readers. I'm drawn in. I'm in. I'm in. But so basically the premise of this book is we're following a young girl named Tally, and she lives in this super high-tech world, and they have interface rings that track everything about them. They have toothbrush pills. I remember I was mind blown over that one. And with Tally in this world, when you turn 16, you undergo an operation to become pretty. And this operation basically, they just transform everything about a person to be pretty. And the subjection of this pretty, how they map out what pretty is they take the mean of everyone's face and they average that, and they just make everyone look basically the same. You still look like yourself kind of, but I have glasses, so they would laser eye my eyes to be normal. Or if you have a big nose, they would make your nose look normal. So you're still you kind of, but you look pretty. That's the whole point of it, because yeah. And so Tally, she is 15. She turns 18. She turns 16 in 2 months. Her best friend Paris had just turned 16. So he's already pretty. And so these pretties live in New Pretty Town. And the Uglies, which is what they call people who have not had the surgery yet, the Uglies live in Uglyville. And they're basically in these huge barrack dorms where they keep all the kids. They go to school there, they live there. Everything's great. They keep the ugly people away from the pretty people because, that would cause conflict. But Tally, she's my best friend Paris is over there in Pretty Town, and she hasn't heard anything from him since she turned pretty. Nothing. And so she's like, dang, I should probably go check on Paris. I should probably, I want to hear from him. I miss him. He's my best friend. And so she decides she's going to go over to New Pretty Town. And so it's late at night. She takes her little interface ring off. She sneaks out the little dorm room, crosses the bridge. And from here, we really get to see how high tech they are, because the bridges are all rigged where they can speak to you, like they will say who's crossing the bridge using that interface ring that they're wearing, and they're held up with these like hydro struts so they're not connected to the ground anyway, and the reliance on technology, crazy, absolutely nuts. But there is this old bridge from like our time, which we'll get into that. They call us the Rusties. There is this old bridge from the Rusty times that doesn't have all that stuff, so she can cross without the bridge tattling on her. So she gets over there to Pretty Town, and there's all these pretty people, and she's like kind of hiding from them because she doesn't want to get caught, of course. And she finds this pig mask that she can wear, which I feel like is a great symbolization because she's she's like the little ugly pig in this pretty world. And she ends up going to the tower where she knows Paris lives. And as she's climbing this tower to try to find him, it's a black tie event. And she is very out of place, obviously, at this black tie event, coming in with a pig mask. And like all the pretties are freaking out, like, who is she? How dare she do this? Like, this is ridiculous. There's a pig at our little fancy little party. And they're all big mad. And I just feel like that symbolization is like chef's kiss, because there's one line in it where she's like, I feel just as ugly with the mask as I do without it. And just that mask, the mask hits, dude. The mask hits. But anyway, she ends up finding Paris as she's hiding from some of these other pretties in the elevator. And he looks drop dead gorgeous. And she's just kind of standing there staring at him. They're staring at each other. And he seems different. Like almost like more mature. Like he's kind of like chastising her. Like, Tally, how dare you come here? And she's like, I came to see you. Like, you're my best friend. Like, what? And he's like, you should have just waited. Like, if you get in trouble now, they're not going to let you become pretty. Like, we're supposed to hang out together. We're supposed to be besties. Like, why would you do this to me? And she's like, well, that was kind of rude. And so she, with his help, ends up going to the roof. And there's these bungee jackets where if you put the jacket on, you can jump off the roof and it'll does exactly what it says. It's a bungee. And because they have all these like levitating stuff in the world, then you're not going to die if you jump off. So she ends up pulling the fire alarm and jumping off so these pretties will catch her. And as she's being bounced along by this bungee jacket, we see like all the fire stuff come in. The pretties are like freaking out. There's some middle pretties there, which middle pretties are obviously, they're exactly what they sound like. They're like middle-aged people who are pretty, which they are normally in Pretty Town. Because all you really do in Pretty Town is party your heart's content, and you just hang out. Like, it's no responsibilities, endless fun. And so when she's middle pretty, she's like, oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. She ends up hiding in like this big grass field by the river, and there we like think she's caught for a while because there's someone standing there watching her. And we're like, oh no, like she's caught, she's caught. Turns out, instead of being someone watching her, it was another ugly, and her name was Shay. And of course, they bond over this traumatic experience of getting stuck in New Pretty Town and all that. So Shay is like, oh, like, where's your hoverboard? Like, let's go back. And Tally's like, hoverboard? I didn't hoverboard over here. And Shay's like, girl, what are you talking about? And so, of course, this has to lead into Shay teaching Tally how to hoverboard, which basically it's kind of like skateboarding, but like super fast, and you're basically on this like surfboard type thing, and you have these crash bracelets on and a little sensor that like clips into your belly button that like tells the board what you're doing and how you're going and all that stuff. And Tally's teaching, or not Tally. Tally does not know how to hoverboard. Shay is teaching her, and she takes quite a few spills, and her wrists are like hurting from this hoverboard, like jacking her up by the crash bracelets. And as they're talking, they realize they share the same birthday, which is perfect because Shay's friends had all become pretty and left her, and Tally's friend had become pretty and left her. So they'll get to be pretty together. They'll get to leave together. which is great for them because, you know, they're lonely. They're lonely. And so now they're BFFs. And as they're talking, Shay seems very not excited about the surgery. Like, she's kind of judgmental about the pretty. She's like, oh, they're all stupid. Like, they all don't know what they're talking about. Like, they've all lost themselves. Like, I do not want to become pretty. Like, I don't want it. And Callie is over here, like, what are you talking about? Like, that is the whole point of everything that we're doing is to become pretty. Like, that's the life goal. Like, that's what you have to do. You have to be pretty. So after they do their little testing on the hoverboard, Tally finally starts to get it. They go back to Tally's room in the dorm, and Tally's like, oh my gosh, like, let's make morphos of our face, which is basically, if you've ever used a filter on anything, that's a morpho. You're basically making your dream face so that when you become pretty, you're like, this is what I'm going to look like when I'm pretty. And Tally's sitting there making all these morphos, and she's like, Shay, like, let me see yours. Like, what are you going to look like? And Shay's like, I've never made a morpho. And never made a morpho. She's never made a morpho, which is mind blowing to Tally because this is like the most common thing. Like, this is what uglies do. They like play around and they do like all these tricks and they play on their little hoverboards and they basically just sit around until they're pretty. And so Tally is shook and Shay is like, can we just please go back to hoverboarding? And Tally's like, no, like, you have to make a morpho. She ends up making a morpho. She's not very happy about it in the slightest, and she ends up making it look kind of scary, which Tally finally gives up on her and is like, fine, let's go hoverboard. Couple days later, she learns how to hoverboard, all that stuff. Everything's good. And Shay is like, I have something to show you. And Tally's like, all right, girl. And she's like, we're going to go to the ruins, which is basically like an old city from our time, which is the rusty time, that has been completely demolished. It's a ruins, like it sounds. And that's out of bounds. Like, that's not in their city. That you are not allowed to go to that, like, by yourself. So of course Tally's like, ever the rule follower, she's like, no. But Shay ends up convincing her. They tricked their hoverboards so that the sensors wouldn't be able to track them. They left their little rings at homes and nothing's tracking them. They're okay there. But they end up going to the ruins, and Shay teaches her that because underneath their city, there's a grid, which the hoverboards work with magnetic fields. Shay teaches her that, like, in things such as river or like raw iron or railroad tracks or ruins or stuff like that, if there's metal there, the hoverboards will work. So they could just basically take these hoverboards all the way to the ruins, which is pretty wild, if you ask me. And as they're going, Shay is talking to Tally about these surgery and how she doesn't want it, and she never outright really says she doesn't want it, at least not yet, but she is talking about how it seems so pointless and how, like, you're fine the way you are. And Tally's like over here like, no, like, we're ugly. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, because Tally is so deep in this brainwashing, and it'll be a while till she comes out, just to prepare you. But this brainwashing, she says, like, maybe after all the surgeries, you become less interesting. Like, you become less of a person than what you were. And that'll kind of allude to something later. That's some foreshadowing. Keep that in mind. But so we got the Rusties, and they destroyed the environment. Like, they were cutting down trees left and right. They were basically all the stuff that we're doing to our environment now, the Rusties were doing. And it is appalling to Tally and Shay to, like, really think about that and, like, look around the city. Like, they were driving cars that used oil. What's wrong with them? They were cutting down trees. They killed animals. Can you imagine? So they're talking all about that. And Shay's like, I got something to show you that the Rusties did that was actually good, though. And Tally's just kind of like, oh, Rusty's never did anything good. What is she talking about? And she takes her to this roller coaster. And she's like, just go down. as fast as you can. Follow me. It'll be fine. As they're going down this roller coaster, top speed, Shay pressed the lip and she's gone. So Tally is top speeding this thing, press the lip, and just immediately falls out. Her hoverboard falls out from below her, and she is free falling at this point. And it's just kind of like, whoa, like, I'm dead. I'm dead. Like, I'm dead. Crash Bracelets end up catching her. There was a gap in the roller coaster, and she is big mad at Shay for not telling her about this. She's like, dude, like, I could have died, and you just didn't tell me. And Shay's like, but did you die, though? No? You were probably fine then. And her friends didn't tell her about the gap, and she was like, my friends didn't tell me about the gap, and it was so cool, and da-da-da. And Tally's like, hold up. You came out here with your friends? She's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I did, actually. Because there's someone out here. His name is David. And this is, like, mind-blowing that there's someone that lives outside of the city. Because everything's in the city. Everything you could possibly want. You just hit a button on the wall, you say, like, I want fried Cheetos, and fried Cheetos, hello. You're like, I want this. The wall's gonna spit it out to you. Like, I want a new shirt. Wall's gonna give it to you. There's really no, like, form of currency or anything in their world. Like, it's basically whatever you want, you just get handed to you. So why would anyone want to live outside? Yes, we're thinking about it, aren't we? We're thinking about it. And so this David dude, Shay lights a little sparkler to signal him, never ends up showing up. So they're tracking on home. And as they're tracking on home, Tally sees a sparkler, like, out by the roller coaster. And they're almost halfway home, so she doesn't tell Shay. Because she's also real tired. It's late at night. She doesn't want to deal with that. She just wants to go home. She didn't even want to come out here in the first place. Tally is just trying to bide her time till she can become pretty and live her dream life. That's her goal. So she just kind of ignores the sparkler. She's like, it was a trick of the light. A trick of the light. Girl, it's dark. What do you mean a trick of the light? Anyway, so they get back home. And as they're talking, Shay, like, they kind of call each other ugly all the time in Uglyville. They have, like, these mean nicknames for each other. Like, Tally's a squint, Shay's a skinny, and they call each other that. Shay refuses to call Tally by squint. She calls her Tally, and she gets mad when she calls her skinny. And she refuses to call Tally ugly as they're talking, because Tally's kind of talking about, like, oh, like, I want to change my nose, my hair, like, I'm just so ugly, LOL. And Shay is like, no, you're not. And she kind of gets upset when Tally calls her ugly too. I mean, rightfully so. But it's so weird, like, because we're kind of on the side with Shay, where we're like, whoa, that's weird. Like, maybe you shouldn't be calling your friends ugly all the time. But Tally is seen as the normal one in this situation. It's just a weird dichotomy. So Tally is talking to her, and she's like, Shay, like, we have to get the operation. Like, it's because of evolution. And basically, their reasoning for this operation is that with evolution, if you look a certain way, then, like, if you're pretty, then people will want to be around you. People will want to see you. They'll want to talk to you. They'll want to make babies with you. Like, if you come off as healthy and pretty and all this stuff, then you'll have a higher place in society. And if everyone looks the exact same, everyone will be happy. Which sounds like pipe dream. Like, sounds fake, Tally. I'm gonna say for real, sounds fake. So as she's telling Shay this, Shay's getting real mad because Shay doesn't agree with this. Like, she doesn't think everyone should be the same, which, I mean, yeah, but we're in Tally's perspective, so we're on Tally's side with this, basically. And we're just like, yeah, like, Shay, like, just go get the surgery, dude. Like, you'll be fine. So Shay ends up leaving. They get in a big fight. And as about a week goes by, Shay comes back. And when she comes back into Tally's room this night, she has a huge bag full of supplies, like water purifiers, fire starters, a bunch of food, and she's like, "So Tally, you ready to go? Like, do you want to come with me?" And Tally's like, "Come with you? What are you talking about?" Basically, Shay met up with David in that Rusty's camp because she was the Rusty ruins, because she was going back and forth there like the whole time she wasn't talking to Tally. She met up with David, and David was like, "Why don't you come with us? And I'll take you to our little town called the Smoke, where we don't do the surgery, we don't live by like pretty laws and all that stuff, like you're just you." And Shay's like, "That sounds pretty good." So she decides to go with David. And she kind of reveals too that some of her friends have gone with David. Like her friends where she was like, "Oh yeah, they all became pretty." No, they didn't. Some of them went to the Smoke. And so Tally is like, "No, absolutely not. I am not doing that." And Shay ends up leaving her. She does leave her with a note written in code about how to get to the Smoke if Tally ends up wanting to follow her. And Tally is just kind of like, absolutely not. Like she just wants her surgery. Like that's the whole point of this. She just wants to become pretty and not have to deal with this stuff anymore. And that's the plan. A thing about the Smoke too that like Shay says is like everyone is ugly, so no one is ugly. Which that kind of hits because it's just such a weird setup where everyone has to become pretty. And I mean, if everyone's ugly, then no one's pretty. Like, no one's different from each other. Like, if we're all looking the same level of ugly, then we're all chilling. And Tally is still like, absolutely not. No way, Jose. Not about that life. It's around their 16th birthday this is occurring. And so Tally, she's getting the surgery. And she wakes up and she gets taken away to go get her surgery. She's having a grand old time. She's so excited. They take her to the hospital. And as she's sitting there, she's expecting this to be like a speedy process. She's by herself though. Like it's literally just her. It was her and the driver left. So it's just her. She's kind of nervous, sits there for about an hour, which is, I cannot, like, imagine sitting in a doctor's office for about an hour. Could not be me. So she is getting real anxious, and all of a sudden, this guy comes out, and he looks terrifying. And we find out that he is a cruel pretty, which is basically a pretty but scary. Like, their features are very severe. Like, very, like, ah! So she sees this cool pretty, and he's like, "There's a problem with your operation, come with me." Imagine hearing that. Like, all Tally wants is to be pretty, and they're like, "There's a problem with your operation, come with me." So she's sweating bullets. They put her in this, like, hover car plane thing, they're driving her away to this, like, hill-looking building, and she's like, "Where are we going? Where are we going?" And he's not talking to her, and she's freaking out. This drive is so rough. Get there, find out she is in special circumstances, which this is a big deal because a lot of pretties and uglies don't even think that special circumstances is real. Like, they're basically like the governing force of all this. They're like the FBI of this world. And they are very scary. Their surgeries like augment them to be like stronger, quicker, smarter than the rest of the population, which, that's terrifying. So she's in the special circumstances, and they take her down to this room, and she meets this lady named Dr. Cable. Dr. Cable, horrifying. She's like the main lady in charge. Very scary looking lady. And she's like, "So your friend Shay, tell me, where'd she go?" And Tally's like, "I don't know." Lying through her teeth. "I don't know. I don't know where she went." And this room is so high tech, it's reading her and knows that she's lying. And so Dr. Cable is like, "If you don't help us find Shay, you'll never become pretty. Ever. Bye." And sends Tally on her way. So Tally is like, uh, hello? Because she doesn't want to betray her friend, but like, she also really wants to become pretty. So she's kind of posted up in her room. She's real upset, like crying, because she was supposed to be getting the surgery today. Like, she was supposed to leave, and she was supposed to never come back here. Her room has been like completely gutted. Like there's nothing left for her in Uglyville. And she's just so upset. Her parents come and talk to her. And when before they seemed so reassuring with their pretty faces, and something about middle pretties is just really reassuring. And that reassurance doesn't come. And they're like, oh yeah, like special circumstances. They told us that you're not becoming pretty because of your friend. Like, how dare that girl? Like, we'll get this figured out. This is not your fault. Like, we'll do this, this, and this, and we'll get you pretty, Tally. Don't worry. And she does not feel reassured about them, like at all, because what do they know what they're talking about? They've never even seen the special circumstances. And so she's just kind of moping around. Paris ends up showing up because she went on a little joyride at night, kind of clear her head. She comes back, and guess who's there? I already spoiled it for you. Paris is there. And Paris is like, hey, you promised me you would be pretty. So Tally's like, well, you're right. Because although she did promise Shay that she would never tell on her or anything like that, she promised Paris before. She's known Paris for so much longer. They've been best friends forever. She has this scar on her hand. They basically did like a blood brothers thing where like they share the same blood. And Paris no longer has the scar because when you're pretty, they like wipe all your skin. You get all new skin. So like Paris is her bestie. Like she has to be pretty to be with him. So she decides she'll do it. Like she will help them find Shay. She goes to special circumstances and she's like, I have this letter. Here you go. And they're like, actually, which is the letter that Shay gave her to be able to find the Rusties. And they're like, that's really cool and all, but actually you're gonna have to do that yourself, which is not what she wanted to hear the slightest. Like, our girl Tally is just trying to become pretty. That's her only goal. Like, that is her only goal, to become pretty. And they're like, yep, actually you're gonna have to follow that note because it's written in code. We don't know what that means. Like, only you'll be able to figure this out. They already knew about the note because they already had a copy of it. And so they give her all this supplies, and they're basically like, good luck. So that's fun. She ends up leaving that night. They give her a necklace that has a little heart, and basically when she gets to the smoke, she's been told to look in that heart and it'll read her eye and like basically ping out her location to the special circumstances. They'll come get her. They'll make her pretty. Everything will be fine. Shay will be saved. And it'll go from there and it'll be great. And so that's kind of like the first chunk of the book. That's the first part. Let's discuss. So we have this world where being pretty is the ultimate goal. We got this girl Shay who doesn't want to be pretty, so she runs away, and our main girl Tally, I've lost my pen. I found my pen. Our main girl Tally has to go find her in order to become pretty herself. That's kind of like basics. Oh, we got special circumstances, and they're like the FBI, and they're pretty evil. It is so cold in here. Can I just tell you? Anyway, so Tally goes on her way, and as she's following this note, it's taking her across the rusty ruins to a railroad track. She's following the railroad track to the sea, and there's broken bridge there. And as she's speeding along, she does not realize that this bridge is broken, so she just right over the top of it, like in the roller coaster. Ends up almost dying. Not just this once, but twice, because there was a second broken bridge, and this one, instead of flying over it, you just had to drop down. Horrifying. Like into the Grand Canyon, basically, just drop straight down. Horrifying. And so as she's doing this journey, she's looking at her food, and the only thing she has is spag bowl, which is spaghetti bologna. That is the only food that they packed her. They're basically like these little MREs that you like pour in water into, let them sit. All she got is spag bowl. Imagine eating spaghetti bologna 3 days. Like, I don't eat meat. I don't even think I've had bologna in my life, but I feel like it's not that good. sound off in the comments if you're a bologna stan. But I feel like it can't be that good. So as she's going along, eating her little spag bowl, this journey is like rough. She is dirty. It's been days. Let me get a sip of water. Like she's been out here for days, roughing it. She got like a sleeping bag. She doesn't have any change of clothes. It's literally just like her sleeping bag, her fire starter, her water purifier, her food, her hoverboard. Like that's about it. So my girl is filthy, and she decides she's gonna take a little bathy bath in this river, hops on in, and as she's like washing herself in this river, this like helicopter comes down out of nowhere. She doesn't know it's a helicopter. She's like, it's this weird contraption that's like a hovering thing with a spinny blade. So like we know it's a helicopter. She doesn't know it's a helicopter. This helicopter comes down like out of nowhere, and it's looking at her camp, and she's just kind of in the water like, hello? And her sleeping bag ends up getting sucked up into it and destroyed. And the helicopter just leaves. So she has no sleeping bag now. Her supplies is everywhere. She's soaking wet, freezing cold, like in the middle of nowhere. She's just not having a grand time. Like, not having a grand time in the slightest. But anyway, she's like, well, like, not much I can do. Like, she's already basically there. It's not like she can call the special forces and be like, actually come pick me up, because she's not going to become pretty then. So she's just got to keep on trucking it. So she ends up coming across this huge field of gorgeous flowers, which are these white tiger lily orchids. White tiger orchids. That's it. And they are gorgina. Like, and they are everywhere. Like, everywhere you look, there are these orchids, and they are so beautiful. And it is like just the sight of them. Just imagine like a whole field with like mountains in the background. And when I mean field, I mean as far as the eye can see, of these like gorgeous white flowers. And so obviously she's kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. This is amazing. And so she decides that she's going to take a nap in these orchids because she's been going the whole night. Her hoverboard's got a charge. It's solar powered, by the way. Don't know if I said that. Hoverboard is solar powered. So she ends up taking a nap in these orchids. She's having a grand old time sleeping in the flowers. And she gets woken up by a raging fire around her. Just all these orchids burning. And she's like, hello? So she gets all burned up. She grabs her stuff, jumps in the river. And as she's like swimming, this dude comes up and like grabs her and pulls her up. She's starting to like drown because everything's so heavy, like holding on her. And she's all burned up, all scraped up. This dude just like yanks her out of the river and is like, hey, what are you doing here? Turns out this dude's a ranger, and the rangers pick up the people that are going to the smoke and they take them to the rendezvous point. They tell her all this, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, like we're the rangers, we're gonna take you to the rendezvous point, everything's gonna be fine. They give her new shoes because like her shoes were destroyed. She's got burns like on her face and stuff. She's not having a cash money time. But the rangers, like they're pretty, but they're different. Like they're kind of like the special pretties. Like they have something about them. Like the new pretties all kind of seem a little bit dumb. And that could be from all the partying, it could be from something else, but they just seem different. And these rangers seem different from them. Like they almost seem like real, like normal people, like uglies when they're talking to Tally. And that's a little strange. And they're like, oh yeah, like we're rangers. We come from a different city. Like we are wiping out all these flowers and we're killing them. And she's like, hello? Because these are gorgeous flowers. Basically, the Rusties, this was like the most rare flower like on the planet. And the Rusties somehow figured out a way to engineer them to last forever and to multiply like beautifully. And they did this so well that it's wiped out all other life. Which, you know, if we want to get into right, like, let's throw it back to English class. What do you think the orchids symbolize? And the answer is the pretties, because like there's nothing else left. Like it's just pretty, and it looks so pretty and happy on the outside, but like inside, it's nothing. It's hollow. It's empty. So that's the symbolism. The symbolism's popping off right now. So basically, they bring her to this rendezvous point. She's waiting there, and she ends up meeting up with Shay and David. And there's a few other people there, like Croy, but she ends up meeting up with Shay and David. This is like the crazy part because Shay is alive. And David, this is the first time she's meeting David. Weird vibes from her because he's an ugly. He's older than her by like a couple years, like not a lot, but he's an older ugly. He has like hand sewn clothes. He seems like a wild man. And he just carries himself like a pretty though. Like he's so confident, which is real weird for her. And they end up taking them back to the smoke. They like search her for any bugs. They find one on her hoverboard, don't find the necklace. Thank God. Because right now Tally is still like, oh, sick. Whenever we get there, I can call up special forces and they'll come get us and we'll be fine. So they break her back to the smoke. It's basically like a little mini town. Like, there's so many people here. They got like, they're doing stuff. Like, they're surviving out here by themselves, which is insane to Tally. Okay, so we're at the smoke, right? And Shay is like, let me give you a tour around. Let's look around. And they take her to the library, which is real weird for them because in this world, like, they don't write, like, they don't even, like, Tally doesn't even know how to write. Like, they know how to read, but they don't write. Like, they don't have physical books. Like, it's all just, like, it's the technology. It's the technology. Like, everything's on these screens. They don't have physical copies of anything. So this is real weird for Tally because she's like, hello? And as they're at this library, this old dude comes out. And his appearance is jarring because he's old and he hasn't had the surgery. He's an old ugly, which Tally's never seen before. And they call him the boss because he's the oldest one there. And as he's like going around, he's like, oh, we gotta find you a job. And Tally's like, a what now? Because they don't work. Like, the uglies don't work. The new pretties don't work. When you're a middle pretty, you can get a job if you want, but like, you don't really have to. And so he's like, let me go find you a job. So he goes off and Shay's like, look at this. And she starts showing Tally these magazines that are just full of uglies because they're from our time and they're like 300-year-old magazines. And everybody looks different and no one looks pretty. Like, they all just look so weird. And they come across this model and they're like, oh my God, like, she has the disease. They're talking about an eating disorder. And they're like, that doesn't exist anymore because when you become pretty, they change everything about you. Like, they change your body. Like, if you're too short, they make you tall. If you're too tall, they make you short. They make you skinny all the time. Like, it's just a really weird concept for them, for all these people to be famous when they're ugly. And that's just so discombobulating for them. Because, especially like us reading it, because like, that's normal for us. That's quite normal. And I can't imagine a world where like all this, they're like talking about it and they're like, yeah, like every once in a while there would be an actual pretty born, but it's so rare that there's no documentation of it. Which, like, isn't that a sign? Maybe y'all should think about that. How this standard that they're holding them to is so unattainable. Anyway, boss shows back up and he's like, I got your job. You're gonna go help them with the railroad or with pulling up the railroad ties. Like, you're good. And as they're doing this, she ends up working with David and they all take their little hoverboards out and they use these little like jackhammer things and they're pulling up the railroad ties. Tally's like, this is sick. This is so cool. Like, you remember when you got your first job and like you were like, this is fun. Like, I'm doing something. I have a task. That's what Tally's feeling like right now because she's never like, she's at school, but like that's it. She's never had a purpose, I guess. So they're digging up these railroad ties, and David is like, let me come talk with me, Tally. And David's weird. He's not like the others. Like the others all came from cities, and they're very much like still like in the ugly mindset of like we're uglies, like this is this. David isn't like that. He carries himself so confidently, and he's not about like all the ugly talk. Like he's just kind of he's like normal, I guess, what we would perceive as normal. And he takes her to this cave, and he's like, look in there. Turns out the cave is actually a tunnel that the Rusties had like dug to just shoot the railroad through the mountain. He's like, this would be perfect because we wouldn't have to like dig up all the trees around and like all the vines. Like we would just get in there, pop the railroad ties out. This would be so cool. The reason why they're doing this is to set up the like kind of like how they had back in the city, like the track underground for the hoverboards, so they can just take hoverboards anywhere. That's the plan with the railroad tracks. But as they're here, David ends up telling her that he didn't come from a city. He's never been to a city. He was born out here in the wild. His parents had ran away and they created the smoke. And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you this because I trust you. Like, you're different. You see how serious this is. And that it's not like all fun and games, because that's what everybody else kind of is treating it like. Like, they're just having a good time out here in the smoke. And he's like going on and on about how he trusts her and all this stuff. And his parents were doctors and they used to do the operation. So they reversed it on themselves. And she's just kind of shook because why would you not want to be pretty? That's like the whole point of life is to be pretty. Like, why would you reverse that? Because she's still like in that mindset of like, I'm going to tattle, I'm going to become pretty, everything's going to be great. But as he's telling her this, she's just kind of like, oh, his whole life is here. Like, this is something for him. And like, she starts to second guess a little bit. Like she's starting to second guess the smoke, and it wouldn't be just Shay that she was taking away from this now. It would be this whole town that she would be destroying if anything were to happen. And so they come back, and she's kind of feeling this conflict inside of her. And Shay is like, hey, what's up with that necklace? And Tally's like, and Shay's like, I know what's about that necklace. I know why you're being so weird. It's because you're in love, and you told someone about the smoke, like I told you. And Tally's like, yep, sure, that's it. That's it. You hit the nail on the head there, Shay. And so she's like, it's fine. Like, you don't have to feel bad. Like, I told you about the smoke. Your little lover boy is gonna come to the smoke. Like, everything will be fine. Like, it's fine. It's fine. And so Tally's like, yep, that's exactly it. So they're doing their working every day. They're going out, pulling up these railroad ties, and they're using, like, jackhammers. So her hands are getting, like, busted up. Like, she's getting, like, all these crazy calluses and blisters and stuff. So as they're going to work one day, David's like, hey, here. And he gives her a pair of gloves. This is crazy. So in the smoke, they have like a bartering system. Everything costs something, right? Because you're not getting anything for free out here like you would back in the time. So this is a big deal for him to be giving her these gloves and like not getting anything back out of it, because like they're useful products. He could have sold these. He could have traded them for something else. And he gives them to her. She's kind of like touched. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. And the readers are all thinking, David has a thing for Tally, but Tally doesn't realize that yet. So as they're working, she's working with Croy, which if you remember, he was one of the guys that went and picked her up from the rendezvous point. She's working with him, and he's kind of like, she had told them, because she left days after her birthday, right? We're going to throw it back for a second because I missed some stuff. So sorry. She left a few days after her birthday. She told them she left on the night of her birthday because that wouldn't have been possible. Like, she would have just gone to surgery. She's a spy, right? She can't just be like, yeah, I'm a spy. So she said that it took her 9 days to get to the smoke, which is a long time, but she had 2 weeks of food. And Croy's sitting over here doing the math, and the math ain't mathin'. If she's out there for 9 days, she's eating 3 meals a day, she only had 2 weeks of food, she should not be back here with a huge amount of spag bowl like she is. So he's kind of sus about that. He's like, explain this one. And she just kind of lies and she's like, oh, like maybe I grabbed more food than I thought. Like that could have always been a thing. I was just trying to embellish my story. Like it's not a big deal. Like da 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 da. And Croy is like, all right, okay, I'm watching you though. So at their lunch break, she's like, oh, I gotta go talk to Shay because Troy Boltzmann, hello? Croy is sus of her and she's like, wants to talk to her BFF about this. She goes to talk to Shay and she's like, I know what you're here to talk to me about. You betrayed me. And Tally's like, oh, like she knows. How does she know? How does she know? And she's like, wait, so you agree with Croy? And Shay's like, what are you talking about, Croy? I'm talking about David. Shay had a big old crush on David, and she shows Tally her hands, which are the exact same size, with even gnarlier blisters than Tally's. And she's like, those gloves that he gave you? You want to talk about that? Oh my. So Shay's big mad at her for taking David, and she's like, yeah, like Shay, he doesn't even talk to me anymore. Like he's only interested in you. Like you betrayed me, and you have this other person that you're waiting on that you're in love with. Like how dare? Let me just sip of water. How dare? How dare you? And Tally just goes along with it. She's like, yep, like I guess he likes me. I guess that's true. But like she feels kind of bad about it, and Shay is like, you need to tell her, like you need to tell him about that necklace. And Talia agrees. She's like, I'm gonna tell him about the necklace. And but in her head, she's like, I'm gonna tell him the whole truth. Like Talia is planning on telling David everything, and so she goes up to him that night as they're eating dinner and she's like, hey, like, I have something really important that I need to tell you. Like, da 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 da. And David's like, I have something I need to tell you too. What? So they go off. And he basically, like, this whole time he's hyping her up about how she's so brave for coming out here to the smoke all by herself. She's not like the other, like, she's not like other girls. Like, this is written in 2005, so she's not like other girls, and it's fine. But he's like hyping her up. She's like, you're not like other girls. Like, you are different. Like, you're brave. You get it. You understand the smoke. You see what we're doing here. You're working hard. Like, you're doing bang up job, girly. And he's making her feel like pretty good about herself, which is not common for an ugly. And then he starts talking to her and he's like telling her she's pretty and like all that stuff. And like she kind of feels like it. And she imagines, like, as he's talking, like her going back and becoming pretty. And she's not excited about it. That's been her whole plan this whole book, is to go back and be pretty. And she's been so excited about it the whole book. And now she's not. Can we talk about a character development? Like, hello? So basically, as he's talking to her, he's like, well, you're so different and you understand it. I have something that I need to show you. It is my parents. Like, you need to talk to them. And this is big news bears. And so he takes her. His parents are hidden even from the smoke because they were doctors. They were like high level doctors. So if they got caught, like it would not be good. So they're going to the doctor. They get there and they meet his mom and his dad. And his dad's name is like Ash, I think. And then his mom's name is Maddie. So they meet them and he's like, you guys have to tell her. And they're like, dude, David, like, we are not telling her. Like, she does not need to know this. Like, she is just a child. Like, da. And they're like, no. And David's like, no, like, you need to tell her. Like, she's different from the others. She needs to know what's going on. And the whole time, Tally's here, like, what? Excuse me? Hello? And so basically, his parents tell her they were high level doctors and they worked in the surgery, and as they were doing brain scans, they realized all of the pretties had the same brain lesion. So, like, the same brain damage in almost all of them. Like, there were some that didn't have them, but the ones that didn't have them were people who worked, like, as rangers in special circumstances, doctors, lawyers, like, it's like, I don't know, like train conductors, firefighters, like people like that need to have fast-paced time reactions and like actually think through their stuff. They're the only ones that don't have these brain lesions. And they don't know exactly what it's for. They got caught during their research, and they basically like kind of conclude that the lesions are there to keep the population docile and to like keep the pretties under control. Because I mean, if you don't have any disagreements and you don't have that like drive or like fast-paced action, like you're just kind of doing your little thing all day, be bopping around, like you don't care about anything and you don't question anything. That's what these brain lesions are doing to them. And so they were trying to find a cure, and basically they got caught, and the doctors were like, or not the doctors, the special circumstances were like, trash your research or die, basically. So they ran away, and they've been trying to develop this stuff this whole time out there, but they don't have any pretties out there to like develop. And you can see the difference between like the uglies and the pretties and just how they act. And they've been able to see this difference like the whole time they've been out there. And they've just been doing their little research and da 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 da. And so they leave after she finds this out. She decides, like, I don't want no brain lesion, and I don't want anybody I know getting this brain lesion. So she decides she's not going to call the special circumstances. And she's like, yep, not going to do it, not going to do it. Her and David end up kissing. He tells her she's pretty, and she actually believes him. Crazy. Crazy. Where are we at? I've lost myself on this little board. So, like, as she's talking to David, and he's like kissing her and telling her how she's so beautiful and stuff, she sees it in him. And she like realizes like it's not just the brain lesions that like have brainwashed us our whole lives. Like it's also like sitting around and calling each other ugly all the time. Like that's not good for us. And like that brainwashing, she kind of breaks out of it a little bit. And so she decides not to tell the special, so she's got to get rid of this necklace. And she's like, David, come with me. After they kiss, she takes the necklace, throws it into the fire. Gorgeous. Okay, so she wakes up the next morning, and it's going down outside. The special forces are here, and they are rounding up all the Smokies, and they're like, we're not going to hurt you if you listen, but like, they're kind of beating them up. The Smokies are fighting back, and it's not going well. So she runs outside real quick. She slept in. And outside, she sees the boss, and he has this big bag full of the magazines. And she's like, oh my God. And he's like, all right, you want this pepper spray or do you want to do the magazines? And we're going to run. She's like, okay. Like, I guess the magazines, please. And he realizes she doesn't have any shoes on. So he's like, you're the distraction, actually, because you're not going to make it in those woods. He runs off. She uses the pepper spray on the special that was trying to watch him and ends up getting caught. She knocks the first one down, gets caught by another one. They drag her back to the rabbit pen, throw her in there. She's still got no shoes. And Croy's in there, and he's like, hey, BFF, this sucks, right? Like, he ain't even got no shoes on. She's like, this sucks. Because the whole time she's like, this is my fault. Like, this has to be my fault. Like, I had to have done something to call them here. But she didn't call anyone on the necklace. Right? And so they're talking. Shay gets there, and she is pissed. Shay is pissed at her because she's like, this is your fault. You did this. Like, first you took David from me. Now this. Shay's big mad. And everyone is just like, Shay, don't say that about her. Like, come on. So they're rounding everybody up, and they're scanning their faces with this like little device that tells them what city they're supposed to be in. So they're dividing everyone up. Croy gets sent off, a bunch of the people get sent off, and they grab Tally, scan her, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's you! Bestie! You did a great job leading us here. Like, you're so awesome." And Shay overhears all this, and Shay's just like, "I told you. I told you all this." But everyone's just like, no one else really heard this. I don't know, kind of a plot hole if you ask me, because I'm sure everyone else would have heard this, but they never bring it back up. Like, Shay's the only one that knows. So that's cool. So Shay's like, "This is Tally's fault, da 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 da." They scan her, they take her back to Dr. Cable, because Dr. Cable's here now, of course. She's posted up in the library. And they're like, "Dr. Cable, look! Your sweet angel is here." And Dr. Cable's looking at Tally. She's like, "Why are you trying to fight? Like, what's up with that? Where's your pendant, by the way? Where is that silly little thing?" And Tally's like, "Oh." Because, like, we probably shouldn't tell her that we threw it in the fire and burned it. So she tells Dr. Cable that she hid it, and Dr. Cable's like, "Oh, well, that's good, because if it was destroyed, it would have sent out a signal. I hope that's not why. You should probably go grab that, because we wouldn't want another signal to be sent out. Like, go get the pendant, Tally." Now, this is not good, because if you remember, she threw the pendant in the fire. Threw it in the fire. So Tally's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go get the pendant." And her and a guard take her out, and she's like, "Yeah, actually, my pendant is right over there on the roof where we are charging our hoverboards. That's crazy. It's weird." And so the guard is like, "All right, fine, sure thing." And he lays her over to the roof, and she doesn't have shoes on, so she's slipping and sliding all over this roof, but, like, also is trying to get on a hoverboard. And she ends up slipping into the guard, knocks the guard off the roof. Guard's fine, because he's special. Like, he doesn't care. He's just kind of like, "Get the pendant." And she's like, "Well, it's really hard to get the pendant with these handcuffs on." She's handcuffed. And he's like, "All right." So he, like, clicks a little button and the handcuffs pop up, jumps on a hoverboard, starts booking it out of there. And as she's going over, she's like flying over all the people in the rabbit pens, and they're like, "Yeah, Tally did it!" And all the specials are like, "Oh my god!" So they start following her in their big little vehicle thing, and she ends up making it to that cave that David had showed her before, and loses the specials. Like, she makes it look like she fell off her board, loses them, makes it to the cave, and as she walks in, someone's like, "Hello?" It's David. Of course it's David. Who else would it be? So they end up hiding in the cave overnight, like, real scared, and they come back the next morning, and the smoke is in ruins. Like, it has been burned to the ground. Like, it is really the smoke now. Everyone's gone. Like, nobody left. It is in ruins, and he's like, "We gotta find my parents." And so they go to David's parents' house, and it looks like a bomb went off inside. And there's no one there. There's no bodies either. So the Tally's like, "Well, maybe they ran away." But David's dad, like, he didn't even take his knife. So they were definitely taken by the specials. And they decide that they have to travel back to the city to save everyone. Get them all out of this situation. Which Tally's like, yes. Like, David's like, "Gotta save my family." And Tally says yes, because she feels so guilty. Because, I mean, Dr. Cable kind of was like, "Yeah, like, if you broke the pendant, we're gonna come." So it's definitely Tally's fault that they came. And so they travel back to the city. It's real. They have to take a while because they only have one hoverboard. They're flying on it. They, like, yeah, I don't know. It takes a while because they're trying to stay low to not get caught, all that stuff. And as they're traveling, David tells Tally that the Rusties, like, they were so greedy in overconsumption that basically everything ran off these fossil fuels, and a bacteria hit the oil, and that's what caused everyone to die. Like, it would combust, like, on, like, I don't know how to explain this. They explained it with like using phosphorus, but I don't know if that's true. But basically, what they said is that phosphorus, when it goes to the air, it instantly ignites. So basically, this bacteria did the same thing to oil, where it would instantly ignite. So it once it got infected and it got to like a certain like area of infection, it would just explode. So like you would be driving your car down the road, it would explode. Like turn the light on in your whole house explodes. Like that type of thing. So that's what happened to the Rusties, poor guys. Like they did. And he was like basically telling her like it wasn't all bad. Like there were like good people out here, and he's basically like that's what the smoke is trying to be, like the good version of the Rusties. And this is only further bringing her onto the smoke side because she doesn't want to be pretty no more. She doesn't want to deal with any of that anymore, like the specials and all that stuff, because that is terrifying. So they get back to the city, and David is like, we gotta go see special circumstances. So that they travel along, go see special circumstances. They're just kind of like mapping out their way. And then they go back to the ruins because now they got a plan in mind. And they're going to steal these bungee jackets and basically do the same thing that Tally did on the roof. But instead of like jumping off a building, they're going to jump into the building. Because I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but special circumstances is in this like hill type of thing. And they have this like big shaft that goes down that the hover stuff will like fly out of, like the hover cars and stuff. And it's all underground. So they're going to jump down that shaft, and then that's how they're going to save everyone. That's the plan. And as they're in the ruins discussing this plan, they did steal the bungee jackets from the school. They see this little group of uglies, and they're like, hey guys, you want to play a trick? Because the uglies love tricks, and the uglies are like, of course. Like, we want to join the smoke. We want to play the trick. Like, we want to do it all. We want to help you guys. And they end up convincing them to let off these sparklers that spell out the smoke lives, something like that, which is crazy because like they're Tally and what's his name? David. His name is David. I've been saying it this whole time. Tally and David, they are on their little hoverboards and they're at special circumstances and they're waiting for it to be like the right time. So they agreed like, I don't know, like midnight. Let's say midnight. They agreed at midnight the sparklers would go off. So they are sitting there at special circumstances waiting. And from special circumstances, they can see that burning huge all the way from Uglyville. And so they're like, ooh, they did it. And the not the hoverboards, the like hovercrafts come out and they're going there and they end up like doing that. They get over with the bungee jackets and they're standing there and they're like, oh, we got to get in. They use their little jackhammer stuff, fall down into the pit. Honestly, it's very easy. I'm surprised they do not get caught this whole time because they fall down in the pit and then they like are just kind of bumbling around and they end up in the like holding cell where they're holding all the people from the Smokies. And Dr. Cable's down there. They bash her head with the side of the jackhammer thing, knock her out cold. And this woman comes up and is like, hey, like, what are y'all doing? Like, why'd you hit Dr. Cable? That's so rude. And this woman is Gorgina. And they're like, Tally's kind of looking at her and like, I know you from somewhere. It's Shay. They made Shay pretty. And so Shay is pretty now. And she doesn't care about the smoke. She's so happy they made her pretty. She's like, I actually never wanted to be ugly in my entire life. Like, I didn't want that. Girl, what? She doesn't care about David anymore. She doesn't care about the people from the smoke. Like, she doesn't even hoverboard anymore. Like, she's a completely different person, basically. And it's that brain lesion. So they find Shay. Obviously has the brain lesion. She's so happy to be pretty. She's partying. She's having a great time. They find everybody else. They're in these, like, holding cells. And by everybody else, I mean everyone except for David's dad. We'll get there. And so they escape on these hoverboards because David's like, sorry, my throat. David's like, where's dad? And his mom is just like, your dad is dead. We need to leave. Imagine that. Imagine that. So they escape on the hoverboards. Shay comes with them because Tally just kind of grabs her and she's like, we gotta fix her. And so Shay and Tally are on the same hoverboard. David and his mom are on one, and then like Coy and other people. There's other people there. They're on hoverboards. They're escaping. Um, so let's see where we are. So they get to the ruins, and they tell everyone about the brain lesions. And as they're at these ruins, these uglies that they talked to before, they told all the other uglies, like, hey, you gotta come over here and talk to these people. So all these other uglies are coming up and they're telling everyone about these brain lesions. And they're all kind of freaking out. And while they were down there, Maddie, which is David's mom, she stole Dr. Cable's tablet. So that had all the information on it. Like, she was able to pull up all her research. So over these next couple of weeks, she ends up finding a cure, and she's able to make it. And she gets this pill, and she's like, this will reverse the brain lesions. Like, you'll be the same, you'll just be pretty this time instead of your ugly form 4, but this will reverse your brain lesion. And so they're like, awesome, like, we can use this on Shay. And Shay's like, no, actually, I'm having a grand old time. I would not like to have my little brain lesion because I don't have a brain lesion. What are you talking about? And Tally and David are like, give her the pill. Just give it to her. And Maddie won't. Like, she won't do it. She got morals or something. I know, so weird. But so she won't give Shay the pill unless Shay agrees to it because, I mean, it's a trial. Like, anything could happen too. Like, you could die from this. They don't know exactly how it works because it's never been tested on anyone. And so David is real mad about that because he's like, just give her the dang pill. Maddie won't do it. And so Tally is like, I'll do it. Like, I'll go become pretty and then I'll take the pill. And David's like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? And she tells him everything. Turns out his mom already knew, but she didn't tell him anything. So she tells him everything. And of course, he's very upset about it. And she's like, I gotta do this because, like, it's my job to make sure this pill works, and I need to do this to, like, cure her own guilt. So David gets real mad about that, obviously. He storms off, and Maddie ends up, like, she's like, yeah, like, that'll work. Like, I just need you to write out that you want this pill, because there's a chance she could turn pretty, and she gets this brain lesion, like, not wanted anymore. So she writes out, she has Shay write out, she can't write. She writes out that she'll take the pill and, like, everything will be Gucci. And so she hops on a little hoverboard with Shay, never says goodbye to David, by the way. Hops on a little hoverboard with Shay, trucks back into town, and this little police officer comes around and he's like, hey man, like, why are you speeding? Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. When he sees Shay all being all pretty, but he was like also weirded out because why is a pretty hanging out with an ugly? And Tally is like, literally says, I'm Tally Youngblood, make me pretty to him. And then the book ends. And then it ends. And that's the end of the book. Like, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna drink some water and then we'll chat. We'll chat about the book because we got some chatting to do. Okay, so what what? So what does it all mean? This is the recap of the recap. So basically, we got this world where all the people are given brain damage and they're made to all be the exact same so they don't cause any problems like the Rusties, because that's the whole thing with the Rusties too, is they were causing all these problems, having all these wars, all this stuff. They're basically transformed so that they won't do that. And I don't know, they're kept like sheep in this like super high tech world, and they can't make any decisions for themselves, and they're basically controlled by these special circumstances. And then we have this character, Tally, who is so deep brainwashed into this whole mindset that she agrees with it 100%. And her whole character arc is her coming to the conclusion that, like, maybe things shouldn't be that way. Like, maybe we don't all have to be groundbreaking. Maybe we don't all have to be the same. And it's kind of this whole, like, struggle of, it's definitely like a coming of age thing. She's becoming herself, all that stuff, and now she wants to be a part of the smoke. And we go from her wanting her whole life goal to be pretty And instead now she has to, like, one time she doesn't want to be pretty, she has to. And she's real upset about that. There's one part in the book when they're in the library where Dr. Cable tells her that her only skill is self-preservation. And if we think about it, like, all of her actions have been kind of really selfish, framed under this frame of loyalty, this whole story, because she was loyal to Paris because she wanted to be pretty. So she went to go find Shay, and then she became loyal to Shay and David and the smoke. And that backfired and ended up with them all getting kidnapped, and that loyalty then pushed her to want to save them. And that, like, her whole point of this was to keep herself safe and keep herself pretty. I've lost my pen. Oh no. Anyway, oh, I found it. Oh, her whole point of this was to give herself the life she wanted, and now she's kind of grown up a little bit, and that's not the goal anymore. The goal is for the betterment of their whole society, like, as a whole. The specials, terrifying. They also call them cool pretties throughout it. I don't know if I used that for them at all, but very scary. I also love how our boy Scott, the writer, with the orchids, just completely removing all sense of, like, diversity and difference, like, in the town. So the reason they were burning them all down is because when these orchids come, they just wipe out everything else, which, the pretties, everybody's the same, nobody's different. It's eventually going to come down, and this is the beginning of that come down. Then let's see. Beauty is not everything. We know this. This is kind of like the basics. And it's just so interesting, this idea, I guess, that he went with, where they could have just given them all the brain lesions, but and making everyone, like, look the same and kind of using that evolution standpoint. Pretty good. Because, like, people say that now. It's like, oh, like, we've all heard of pretty privilege and that type of thing. Like, it's real and it's out there, and people don't want to discuss it because it makes them uncomfy, I guess. But pretty privilege is out there. Definitely look into pretty privilege if you don't know what I'm talking about. And yeah, we got self-preservation, and kind of the whole thing of this is her learning how to do stuff for herself. And that's the book. That's the book. There are, I think, 2 more that follow Tally, and then there's one random book called Extras. It's, like, set in the same thing. If you guys are interested in learning, I do have the 3 that follow Tally. So I have Pretties, which is the next book, and then Specials is the 3rd. So if you are interested in learning more about this, let me know, because I will gladly chit-chat away about these books. If there's any books that you want me to chit-chat about, let me know. Let me know. In terms of our knitting, we got to 40 rows. Pretty good. Don't remember what we started with, but I'm going to keep working on this, and I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.